It's a fascinating world, the one that we live in today. We have mobile phones almost as large as tablets, our homes are our new offices, and non-tangible digital currencies are the new big thing. The world of motorcycles is equally fascinating too. You have motorcycles like the Kawasaki ZX-10R, the BMW S1000RR, and the Ducati Panigale V4, all of which are as fast as most sports cars out there. And then you have something like this, the Ducati Multistrada 950S, which is almost like a sports tourer in the shape of an ADV. Does that make the Multistrada a confused product that fails to make its own identity? Hell no, in fact it is quite the opposite, and here's why.
You're watching the AutoX YouTube channel. You can also get your daily dose of all things automotive on our website, autox.com, and follow us on social media. Don't forget to check out our monthly magazine and make sure to hit the bell and subscribe button so you don't miss a thing.
Ducati has really pushed the envelope as far as the handling of its new age motorcycles is concerned. We first experienced it in the Panigale V4 and the V2, and the Multistrada is no different. And a lot of the credit goes to the Skyhook semi-active suspension that it comes fitted with. Unlike some other motorcycles where you have to struggle with tools and manually adjust the suspension, in this particular model it is just a push of a couple of buttons on the handlebar. And the result is an instant and noticeable change in the way the Multistrada behaves. It is almost as heavy as some of its competitors. In fact, it looks quite bulky as well. It looks a lot more intimidating, but when you're riding it on the road, it feels absolutely nimble. It handles like no motorcycle this large and bulky in theory should. It is absolutely predictable, it is effortless in terms of its leaning, and both aspects make it par excellence. And for a motorcycle that handles this well, its ride is surprisingly compliant as well. It's not as comfortable as the Tiger 900, but it manages to take on small and medium-sized potholes in reasonable comfort. On uneven road surfaces with the suspension in its hardest setting, the ride does kind of get quite busy, and it is in fact a setting that I would preferably use only out on the track. Otherwise, even for a sporty riding experience, a hard or a medium setting does the job absolutely fine. From the time you swing a leg on the Multistrada 950S, its comfort is amply evident, and it remains so even after spending long hours on the saddle. The bowl-like seat makes you feel one with the motorcycle, and the slightly tall and the rear set foot pegs gives it a nice and sporty riding stance. Taller riders may complain that the position of the foot pegs makes the lower body feel a little bit tight, a little bit cramped, but I, for my 5 feet 8.5 inch height, found it absolutely comfortable. That being said, the movement on the seat is a little bit restricted, which can be a little discomforting. It can cause a little bit of discomfort when you're riding long distances. The Multistrada 950S gets an 840mm seat height as standard, and that is not quite high given that something like the 390 Duke has a seat height of about 830mm. Ducati also offers a shorter 820mm seat height as an option, and for taller riders there's also an option of a 860mm seat height. While the seat height isn't quite tall, the motorcycle is quite wide just below the seat, which makes getting your foot firmly on the ground a bit difficult, especially for someone with my height. And that makes it even more difficult to push it in and out of a parking space. The Multistrada has an adjustable windscreen, but despite that, it is quite difficult to find the right height. Pulling it up high would bring the edge of the windscreen right in my line of vision, and in the lowest setting, it would cause quite a bit of buffeting. While the latter, for me, was the better compromise, at higher speeds, I could feel my head quiver due to the harsh winds, something that added a lot of pressure on my neck muscles. The Multistrada 950S is a fast motorcycle, possibly even the fastest in its class. Whack the throttle open and the engine growls to life, bringing all of its 113 bhp to work. In fact, the power is adequate and satisfying, so much so that you actually question the existence of larger, more powerful ADVs. with 80% of its 94 Nm of torque coming in as low as 3,500 RPM and staying strong right up till the 9,500 RPM mark, the 950S is quite tractable. In fact, overtaking is just a twist of the wrist away. The throttle response is crisp and the hydraulic clutch makes it absolutely easy to ride in the city as well. And then you have the riding modes. There are 4 of them: urban, touring, sport and enduro, all of which alter the dynamics of the motorcycle. You can change the engine settings, you can change the engine responses, you can change the suspension settings, the ABS calibration, the traction control and more. Switching to the urban mode mellows down the responses a bit, but when you switch to sport, it dials everything up to 11. And the beauty of each of these modes is that they can be customized as per your preferences. In fact, the customization options are extremely expansive. Ducati claims that it can be set to 400 different configurations. In each of the riding modes, you can set your suspension to 5 different settings at the front and the rear. You get the softest setting, you get softer, medium, hard and the hardest. You can also adjust your load mode to adjust your preload with the pillion plus luggage and a couple of more settings. You have 8 levels of traction control, 3 levels of ABS and the Ducati Quickshifter, which can be turned on or off. The Multistrada 950S's safety net is stronger than any other motorcycle in its class. There's 8 levels of traction control, 3 levels of cornering ABS, vehicle hold control or the VHS, cornering headlights for better visibility and more. The 950S has also been fitted with a cruise control. The Multi is a textbook example of Italian design. The Angry Bird front end with the stubby beak and prominent nostrils, the massive 20-litre tank and the wide tail section come together well to give it a striking stance. Fit, finish and build quality all around is good, and Ducati has hidden most of the wires behind body panels quite well. Panel gaps in certain areas are inconsistent though. The 950S comes with a 5.0-inch color dash that offers a ton of information. In fact, while getting acquainted with the bike, I found it a bit hard to locate information on the fly. But it's something you come to terms with after a few days. Aside from the information overload, the display itself is neatly laid out with large fonts and the user interface is simple too. While the Multistrada 950S has quite a few aces up its sleeve, it isn't completely devoid of shortcomings. There are a few things that it could have done better, and for me at the top of the list is the refinement. Although in this BS6 avatar the 937cc engine has become a little more refined, but it still isn't as refined as, let's say, the Tiger 900. There is an innate gruffness to the L-twin motor that does not go unnoticed. It isn't quite vibey as such, especially you don't quite feel any vibes on the handlebars as well as the foot pegs, at least not until you reach the 120-130 km/h mark, after which you do get a buzzing sensation on the seat. But overall it's the coarseness of the engine that can get a bit irksome, especially when you're riding all day long. Additionally, while the 6-speed transmission gets the benefit of a bidirectional quickshifter, it isn't very smooth in its operation. In fact, the transmission too feels occasionally clunky, especially at slow speeds, and we even encountered some false neutrals during our test ride. The Multi's city rideability is one of the biggest downside for me, and it is, I feel, the one thing that holds it back from being a one motorcycle that can do it all. In city speeds doing about 15 to 30 km/h, you find yourself constantly shifting between first and second, and that can get quite annoying. In fact, it even tends to heat quite a bit when you're stuck in bumper-to-bumper traffic. And even when you gather a bit of momentum and you get a move on, it isn't quite comfortable staying in the 4th or the 5th gear at speeds of say about 40 to 45 as well. And it is due to the tall gearing that the motorcycle doesn't quite feel at ease, especially when riding in the city. Allow me a moment here to highlight that the Multistrada 950S isn't an out-and-out off-road machine like the Tiger 900 Rally. It is a very heavily road-biased ADV, something that is amply evident by several factors. The tall gearing demands that you rev the bike a little bit harder to get more power, and it doesn't bode well for the Multi while off-roading. Of course, given a skilled set of hands, the Multi 2 can work wonders off-road, but it just doesn't feel accommodating and forgiving at the hands of an off-road rookie like me. Moreover, the wide front wheel makes it that much more jittery while maneuvering rough terrain. At 15.49 lakh, the Multistrada 950S is quite an expensive proposition, especially when you consider that the Tiger 900 GT is priced at 13.70 lakh. And the fact that the Italian is imported as a CBU further widens the gap. But in all fairness, the 950S packs better performance, has a more comprehensive electronic suite, and has a longer list of features. While all of these aspects make it a little more easier to digest the price tag, but it still can't be termed as a value for money proposition by any means. The Multistrada 950S will appeal to a very clear-sighted set of audiences, those who do not intend to indulge in intense off-road adventures but love the grip they find on the tarmac. And if you are one of those, the Multistrada 950S promises more smiles per mile than anything else in its class.